Still have some burning questions about Q?
Why is he posting anonymously?
Is there a CIA covert operation undermining mainstream media?
Does Q post disinformation on purpose, and why?
If Q is real, why isn't anyone he's posting about being arrested?
All this and more on today's episode of The Edge of Wonder.
So in our last episode, we showed you Q posts that journalists would have a really hard time to deny.
Yeah, unless you refuse to actually study what Q is doing, even for a few minutes.
In this episode, we're going to tackle all the little questions still in your head about why Q is doing, well, what he's doing. Well, gee, does the media seem right now it's like a conducive place for a level of drops Q is making?
Yeah, I mean, it's so extremely polarizing, and many news organizations just have their very own strong agenda. Who even knows what those agendas are? And
then there's the layer of intelligence that we haven't even started talking about yet. Most people think that there's just the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, but those are actually just civilian intelligence agencies.
According to Q, Trump is working with military intelligence. Military intelligence would know everything going on right now and would have to act in a very careful way. And also, it seems from Q's posts that Trump has actually taken back over the NSA.
Yes, that's exactly what, according to Q, that's what's happening. But also, for what Q is saying, it would be pretty inappropriate to use media to make these drops. Some of these things are way out there, and it's not widely accepted concept. So they would have to go through way too many people if this was the case.
So let's say it's as messed up as Q is saying it is. Do you think people listening to the nightly news would be able to really accept that? But also, this gives them the opportunity to see which side each media outlet is really on and how they're going to report on this.
Also, if they were to create their own board, no one would see it, so they would have to use something very secure but something people are familiar with, and thus why they chose 8 and 4chan to do this. Let's zoom out and talk a little more about the media. What is Operation Mockingbird?
Let me ask you something, Ben.
Yeah.
It's the 50s or the 60s, and you need intelligence on anything and everything that's going on to get your country ahead of the game in the Cold War. What do?
Well, let's see. I mean, there's no internet, so I'd probably start talking to a lot of librarians.
Man, you really are that innocent, aren't you? Wouldn't you talk to people who had leads or contacts? Where do you get those?
You know what? I would contact aliens. I would use alien technology, and then with their technology, I'd be able to take over the world.
I've been watching too much David Wilcox, man. No, dude, wrong episode. You'd probably talk with reporters or movie stars with connections, right? I mean, think about it. Actually, to give you some credit, your alien way is probably faster.
Right, because isn't how the CIA even got started with, I mean, Majestic 12 and whatnot, which, well, okay, let me think about this for a second. First, I guess I'd infiltrate correspondents in other countries, dictating the information there and the information coming back into the US. Then I'd make friends with the reporters in the US and ask them to do me favors. Then I'd probably make contracts with the chairman of these news agencies and make them give my agents covers as journalists, but really they're CIA agents. Then I'd make them hire my agents as staff for their organizations. Then when Congress finally called me out on it, I'd tell them, let's not talk about it and only talk about it in private to make sure that no one else knew.
Dude, you just that was intense, man. You just outlined all of Operation Mockingbird in like a few sentences. Okay, but seriously, back to like the show, we'd like to draw your attention to Carl Bernstein, who is co-winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service. Ironically now, he seems to be very foggy-headed on what's going on.
Yeah, I was really shocked about that, actually.
It's a weird interview we just watched on CNN.
Yeah, so we just watched this interview recently on him. Well, after leaving Washington Post in 1977, Carl spent a significant amount of time researching CIA's relationship with the press. He then published his findings in a Rolling Stone article published on October 20th, 1977.
Carl outlines in this incredibly thorough amount of research that journalists and chairpeople in many of the top media outlets all had relationships with the CIA, some of them even giving cover for their agents or being agents in those organizations.
We're talking about CIA officials having assignments in our news since the 50s. Why is this important? This could still be going on.
And you guys have to read Carl's research. One important thing to note is that, and we're not saying we know what happened here, we're just pointing out the obvious, this operation was terminated as stated in the release document by the CIA called Family Jewels. Man, they have a way of naming their documents.
Sure do.
Usually when operations get terminated, they change the name and they learned a lot from their previous effort, right?
When the CIA first does something, it's kind of a mess. I mean, always kind of a mess, which is why there's so much backlash afterwards.
They'll change the name and do it in an even more covert way to achieve whatever goals are necessary.
Next is quotes from articles that prove media can't look at Q neutrally.
So Ben, what's the #1 rule of journalism? It's to look at things neutrally or objectively. Facts.
Pretty obvious.
That's why newspapers were often broke up into news sections and opinion sections.
Yeah, there's always been opinions, but they were called opinion columns and articles, and everything was out in the open and labeled clearly. We're going to show you why mainstream media can't be trusted to comment neutrally on Q.
We're not saying it's everyone, but just look at these examples when you do a Google search about QAnon. We're not going to name names, but we will reference the media organization, so let's quote.
Okay, just did a Google search. One of the first articles down right now is from Gitmo, a tech site. I mean, okay, what the heck could they possibly have to say?
Okay, first paragraph, inane QAnon conspiracy theory. Okay, next quote, Pizzagate extremist horse. Can't say that word, kids are here. Okay, this is an article lambasting Apple and Google for having apps about QAnon that made them money from the App Store.
One interesting thing to note here is that the article says that the QAnon app was in the top 10 apps in April and the top 25 apps in the Google Play Store.
So many people were downloading and using the app. Got it.
Next is a Daily Beast article, and oh my gosh, look at this headline. And you thought Pizzagate was nuts.
That's just the overline. That's not even the headline yet.
What is QAnon? The craziest theory of the Trump era explained.
Okay, so they're making fun of people that consider Pizzagate a possibility, and they're using the words crazy and nuts. Does any of this sound neutral? I mean, we haven't even gotten to the article yet.
In the article, the writer tries to tackle this from a neutral perspective, but only cites sources that are very negative towards the movement itself.
The next in the SEO battle on Google for QAnon is an article by a company with the name Media Matters. Headline, a GOP Twitter account is helping spread the baseless internet conspiracy theory QAnon.
Baseless. Baseless in the headline. In the second paragraph, again, we see the term conspiracy theory, baselessly believed.
Okay, third paragraph. Roseanne Barr and Fox's Sean Hannity push the bogus claims on Twitter, then goes on to say bogus statistics in the same paragraph. I mean, did this lady watch too much Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey as a kid?
Only thing we have to say here is after how much effort she's put in to make fun of people believing in these pedo things could be happening, she's gonna feel terrible if all of this is really true.
Okay, next is Snopes. I mean, we kind of have to mention them. Here's their deck under the headline, farcical, an ill-defined deep state conspiracy theory. First paragraph, largely incoherent, ever-widening conspiracy theory. Opinion. This is his opinion.
I think that wording was incoherent. Couldn't even figure out what the heck they were saying. All right, that's definitely this dude's opinion. They go on to make fun of billboards being put up all over the country by civilians, trying to prove exactly what? That people are spending their own money to put up billboards, I guess.
It's a very pompous article. I mean, if you really calmly looked at Q and everything going on, there's really no evidence that it's incoherent, or anything he's saying is incoherent. It's very well planned out. I mean, you actually have to give it a shot and calmly decipher things, you know? Do I have to say that?
This guy seems like he's already made up his mind before even looking into it.
Okay, we wanted to show you more, and oh boy, we could. But we're gonna leave it here and move on to the next section. Keep watching to find out what their ultimate plan is and when they're going to start arresting people.
Before we go any further, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell.
The edge of wonder.
If Trump's team has all kinds of evidence on these people, why doesn't Q post it? Think about all the stuff on the internet and how many things can be faked, photoshopped, edited, etc. Even if they play a damning video of Hillary Clinton in the heart of Times Square on a giant billboard, most people would think it was a fake video created by the far right.
So they have to do this very systematically, also to get the people on their side. This really isn't about exposing the Cabal anymore, they really already lost. It's about freeing the people from the Cabal's grasp. And even if Trump takes down the entire Cabal, if the people protest and rally with blood being shed and a civil war breaks out, I mean, what the heck is the point?
Right.
That'd be crazy, madness.
However, the media is still Trump's biggest enemy, and if they were to release anything outside of this, the media would rally and rip it apart, including Snopes, Wikipedia, and all the mainstream media out there. Also, many people within the government are still corrupt and wouldn't accept it either and mix in fake evidence or mess it up, which would really discredit all of it.
So they're doing this carefully, but this goes right into the next question, which is why don't they just arrest everyone then?
Trump will bring martial law to the country and we're all doomed. This martial law is actually a Cabal mainstream media conspiracy. One of the biggest things that has happened, and which Q was hinting for days before it actually came out, was the president's executive order on human trafficking, which completely turned the Cabal upside down.
This order declared that human trafficking was at an overwhelming high, and Trump declared it a state of emergency. So by doing this, Trump bypassed all of the civil organizations and bureaucratic laws by giving the military the power to directly siege assets and investigate anyone without going through the courts or agencies.
This has inadvertently led to over 40,000 sealed indictments, with the likes of which that we've never seen before in this country. This shows that there's something major going on behind the scenes, whether you believe in Q or not.
Yeah, you cannot deny that evidence, right?
Right.
Also, this could be the biggest takedown of any organized crime ring that we have ever seen, and involving more members than any gang we have ever seen.
In order for there to be a justification for a sealed indictment against someone, there had to be an investigation, evidence of criminal activity, and approved indictment based on that evidence. So this just isn't something someone can throw together on a whim.
But really, the military is on our side. They are the main players fighting against the Cabal. If it was otherwise, Hillary would have won and we would be on the verge of becoming a communist, globalist country. We're not saying anything bad against anyone. This is just honestly the reality.
So why don't they just arrest everyone if this is real? The short answer to this is that it is all a process. Plus, this goes back to what Rob was saying about the bloodshed and civil war if they do. The main objective of what Q has been doing is to create mass awareness, discussion, engagement, and loyalty so they can slowly start to drain the swamp.
However, once people stop listening to the mainstream narrative on their own, great changes will happen in our society, and slowly, more and more journalists are being exposed for being agents or paid off by the CIA, which is under the Cabal still, Operation Mockingbird.
But with the Q initiative, people are starting to wake up. You should be happy. We're actually winning. If everyone woke up, this would all be over tomorrow. However, that is extremely unlikely. Too many people have way too much to lose at this point in time, but...
Yeah, next is, could Q really be posting some misinformation? This absolutely could be true, however, this isn't to deceive the public. If you have a strong hand in a poker game, you are going to bluff to make it appear you don't, or vice versa. Q most likely is saying certain things to see how the public, or the Cabal, will respond to it.
Also, this will make the bad actors nervous because they won't know what the next plan of action will be. And this will cause them to pretty much not think rationally and probably slip up or do something really dumb.
But again, this is actually in the public's interest. They want people to know what is happening, but at the same time, they can't spell it out for us too clearly. But if a lot of people start to talk about something, it will for sure make things harder for these bad actors to be in public, right?
Why Q is not a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Okay, so Q drops some big names that are just branded with the label conspiracy, such as Rothechilds, George Soros. He says John McCain is connected to ISIS, Clinton family cover-ups, CIA killed JFK, he claims the Bush family caused 9/11, and he says Obama is Muslim. The list goes on.
What? For the most part, people are saying, oh my gosh, what the heck? Yeah, this is just a complete right-wing conspiracy theorist who is trying to manipulate the world. But the main point isn't about being left or being right. There are Democrats and there are Republicans working together to filter out these bad actors.
And in truth, the Cabal are using any name they want to hide what they are doing. If Republicans are getting a bad rap, they will use Democrats and vice versa. They don't care about this. They only care about securing their power, their greed, and their lust for control.
The Bush family is just as bad as the Clintons, according to Q, so how can you say it is a right-wing thing? The Cabal wants you to depend on them for everything. They want to make it so the government thinks for you, that you can have whatever you want because, darn it, you deserve it.
Real life doesn't work that way. You have to work to get something. No pain, no gain. They're using every label, every group out there to push their devious agenda and make it sound like they are on your side, but secretly they're blocking us and forcing us to accept their ways.
They have a habit of feeding us with a golden spoon and promise in the future they will give it to us. But we are so focused on the golden spoon that we're not even asking what the heck that is they're feeding us. Then once they do give it to us, they crash the economy, so now the spoon is worthless, but they tell us things will get better.
Yeah, it's like a rotting old aluminum spoon wrapped with gold foil or something. Okay, in a nutshell, this is what they've been doing. Destroying the economy by forcing us to buy overseas, which cuts all jobs here, making us believe that socialism is the answer and that capitalism is the devil, making our education really dumbed down and forcing everyone in debt. Then they make us feel we can't make any decision on our own without them.
But what they won't tell you is that what Lenin said, the goal of socialism is communism. So, if you still want to brand us as conspiracy theorists, you may go ahead. I just hope that once the truth begins to shine brightly, it just isn't too late for some people.
So what would happen if Q was accepted by the left-leaning media agencies? Well, basically, the entire system would crash. I mean, no, really, if this were to actually happen, it would be that Trump's team would have already began the process of clearing out the bad people in these companies and begin to dismantle the CIA.
But also, if this did start to happen, it would also show that there is a great awakening and that people are realizing the truth before them now. That the evil in the area is dissipating and that the light is beginning to shine in people's hearts once more.
Q did say that in the future there won't be a CIA, it was corrupt from its inception, and in the future all that'll be left is the NSA. The life of a spy agency is one built on lies. How can anything be trusted that it says? In this case, it won't be able to keep reporters on its payroll. Okay, so final thoughts. Here's one thing I just want to say to you all. Some of you, after watching this, are going to be like, oh, you guys are right and conservatives and blah, 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 but you're basically playing right into the media's hands if you do that. Actually, Ben and I couldn't care less about parties.
No, actually, I couldn't at all.
At all.
I just want to vote for someone who is upright, holding up traditional values, being righteous, and being truthful.
Anyone who's good, we support.
And taking down the deep state.
Yeah,
That's
basically
the most important thing. If someone's willing to do that, they have my support.
Conspiracy theorist is a stick that people use to beat people. Don't fall into that either. All we want to do is give you guys the truthful information, and that's all we're trying to do here. We are not taking sides. We're not getting on the liberal or the Republican bandwagon or whatever. That's not what we're doing.
Yeah, we're not Nazis.
Yeah.
So Rob and I have been actually following Q for a very long time. So it's not like we've just thought this up on a whim and wanted to do this. It's like we've been following his posts since the beginning. We have a lot of people that we know who's kind of involved with this kind of on a high level of things, and they've been telling us some information. So this is the video that we've kind of compiled all that information in and presenting it to you guys. So guys, what did you think of our video on QAnon?
Yeah, did this change your perspective on Q? And if so, how? We want to know, and we want to hear from you guys, so make sure you comment below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure to click the notifications. We want to keep pumping out awesome videos for you guys.
Okay, until next time, we'll see you guys out
on the edge.
Are you like us and want some awesome merchandise that shows your support of Q?
Did you look for some t-shirts before, but they really weren't what you were looking for?
Well, come on down to the Edge of Wonder Zazzle store.
We've got the coolest Q shirts and mugs on the planet. Go to Zazzle.com/Edge of Wonder.